Yo, 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 Jeppo, how are you?
I'm good, Cookie. How are you?
Thank you. Oh, that's really cute. I love the name Cookie. I will have that one, please. I like to trial new ways of saying hello when I go to the gym on a morning. I'll drop a yo, 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 a good morrow, ladies and gents, beautiful humans.
What's up?
What's
Shall I try
up? I
that
like
one?
to
Bring
keep it
that
fresh
back.
at 5:45. Well, I thought today, I'm really excited about this actually. We touched on this topic quite a while ago, I think, we did an episode about goals and milestones, and we had a really
hmm
big response. We had lots of DMs from people saying the same, like, I've hit this goal on my vision board, but then it doesn't feel like enough, or I don't feel like the way that I thought I was going to feel. And I hear it in coaching people when they're like, when I just do this, I will
Yeah.
feel like this. And I'm like, oh,
hmm
interesting topic.
Yeah.
So shall we talk about this sort of feeling of
Yeah.
enoughness?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I feel like we talk about this personally a lot.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
this is a topic that we come back to a lot because,
Mm-hmm,
one of the things we talk about a lot is business, how we feel, what we're doing
mm-hmm.
in our businesses and stuff. And I think something that's coming up more and more as our businesses are growing is how much is enough,
Yeah.
and I'm all, and I think I think you're a bit more driven than me. But I'm always thinking about whenever something's offered to me or I'm thinking about doing something in my business, my first thought is energetically, what is this going to cost me? And
Yeah.
how is that going to affect my life?
Yeah.
Because it's not worth it to me. It's not, it's, that's how I think about enough. And it's like,
Mm.
I could grow this business enormously, but it's going to cost me. And we sort of sometimes talk about, don't we, like how there's a perfect size for certain businesses, and then
Yeah.
sometimes growth can become detrimental because it starts costing you. And so for me, I'm always like, this is starting to encroach too much on my energy, my personal time, and to be fair, the money's just not worth it to me because my life
Mm.
doesn't get better
Yes.
for it. It
Yeah.
starts to feel worse. And you can
Yeah.
sometimes convince yourself that the more money and the kudos or the growth or whatever will feel better. I fully do. I speak to people every day, and I did when I
Mm-hmm.
was a therapist. I had lots of clients who were millionaires and all of that, and it doesn't. I just don't
No.
think it does. I learned a lot from those people actually therapizing them,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think, really think, so I think let's take this conversation to the listener about
Yes.
to
I'm so
encourage to
excited.
think how much is enough in your life. That's what we
Yeah.
really want to think about, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you thinking about this, Maddie?
So just what you said there's just kind of triggered a couple of thoughts for me. So I like to really keep an eye on what's going on, both we operate in between two worlds, don't we? As in, we're in the hair and beauty industry. That's who we work with. That's where we came from, and we are online coaches. So we
Mm-hmm.
move in the online coach educator world as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm seeing in the hair and beauty industry, in particular, there's people that come to mind inside of Breakthrough, which is a program that Haley coaches inside of. It's for people who are fully booked and want to drop a day. There is this theme of, in fact, one of our clients in there said, I don't care how much money I make, it doesn't feel like good money. Like I
Yeah.
don't want it. Like
Ooh.
it's so like painful to make. I almost want to repel it. And what I'm seeing in the online coaching world is a lot of big coaches that I've worked with or that I've followed and admired are in a phase of descaling their business. Like
Mm.
either strategically because they've grown enormously and now they've had a bit of a
It was
change
too
of mind
much.
or whatever,
It's
or
too
they've
hard.
burnt out, or
Yeah.
they're doing it strategically where they're like, actually, I'm going to take. One of my mentors is taking a sabbatical where she has not coached anyone. She's like completely unplugged from the business, closed her program, closed her mastermind, like multi-million-dollar business. But she did it strategically in the months before that, like planned to take that time off, and then has
Mm-hmm.
come back with actually quite a different business model. So I'm really interested in this, seeing how this is panning out for people, how we're thinking about this as
Mm.
well. And I think in business in particular, kind of behind the chair hair and beauty, there's like the growth side of it. So having the big salon, having the chain of salons, having a bunch of staff or employed staff, launching
Mm-hmm.
education. I see
Yeah.
it in the money side of things. So we get a bit obsessed
Yeah.
with like 6 figures, 7 figures, 5K months, 10K months. the big number goals, and your girl loves a big goal, and I'm going to probably go into that in a minute, but my experience of that. And then there's like the achievement. So, how much is enough? Like award nominations, award
Yeah.
entries, winning awards, accolades. How many followers feels like enough?
Yes.
How many 5-star
Yes.
reviews do you need to have before you feel like you've achieved something?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes what happens to us a lot, and I think this is exaggerated in the social media age, but I think it went on before, which is that we watch other people doing similar things to us and we can feel the need to keep up. Or, oh, I
Yes.
should be doing it like that. And we can get very swept away in that sometimes.
Yeah.
We've talked about this, haven't we? How that's happened to us, between us, in our
Yeah.
group. I've done stuff sometimes because you and Emma and Viv are doing things and then going, oh, actually, I don't need to do that thing. That does,
Yeah.
but think, oh, is this what we're doing now? And
Yeah, totally.
it can be hard to not get swept away by what people who are doing, but also just trying to keep up with the Joneses, like watching people on Instagram. Oh, they're bringing out education. I should be doing that. They're getting another salon. I should be doing that. Whatever. And so I just think there is a bit of the keeping up with the Joneses about the how much is enough thing as well.
100%. Yeah, I think that's a really big part of it. And I know I've told you this privately, but I think it's like quite a funny story to share with people. We worked with a consultant who was like brilliant, like a real business guy, like does growth. So his whole thing is like double-digit growth or triple-digit growth. And we hired him because I had reached kind of like a plateau in income and profit. And actually looking back, totally doable, and like lifestyle was really good. But I was like, oh no, I've stagnated and the line isn't going up in a steep line anymore. And that was freaking me out. So we hired him for a year. And it was funny because we went in and we met him in real life, and he said, so Maddie, what's the goal? And I said, I want to do £1 million in a year. And he like laughed. He was like, doesn't everyone? Because it's just such a common like. And he said, he was like, why? I said, don't know, it just sounds really cool.
Good question.
Like,
yeah, that's what I said. Why? Good question.
Very good question. And I just, I have a funny relationship with goals in that I don't get upset when I don't hit them. So for me, I feel okay hitting very, very big goals because I know that stretches me. And if I even do 50, 60, 70%, that's still mint. I don't I don't really feel upset if I don't hit the goal. And I like to have a thing to work towards.
Yeah.
And anyway, over the following year, we ended our year in about spring. And what we did, which was very cool, but also very eye-opening, was he actually, he knew all of the offers that we had, so all the different programs when we were launching every particular thing. Like we talked about ideas for new programs and, various different bits and bobs. And what he helped me to do, I say help me, he did all the graft, was to... what he did for me. And then I was like, is we actually worked on this plan to get to 1 million. And I saw it in front of me. I've got it on my computer. And it was literally like year 1, year 2, year 3. I think it was in 27 to 28. And we had literally month by month, course by course. Like I knew in January 2025 exactly how many Elevate places I need to enroll. Like I knew how many calculated return, like people we had to retain. And I saw it. And two sort of things happened at the same time. One, I was like, this is actually so cool to see that this is a possibility and actually see, for me, I like the maths to be mathing. But the other side was like, holy hell, the requirement to get there was enormous. And I'm talking like launching masterminds, which I'm absolutely not against and something that I might do in the future. But launch a mastermind, there was like a kind of Maddie in your pocket voice note coaching thing that we would launch. There was like enormous live launches of certain, like bigger than we've ever done before, which would, require mountains of work. And what was helpful was to one, see that it was possible, but also very realistically go, yeah, but look at what's required.
Look at our life.
Yeah. And ultimately the decision that I came to was it's not worth it. Like,
yes,
And Aidan asked me a really interesting question, and I'm going to just preface this that I know that this is like from a very privileged and fortunate position because we're in a like a good financial position. But Aidan said, if we like won an amount on the lottery now, or we would, like the 10k a month set for life, what would be different in your life? And I sat and thought about it. And I was like, I don't know, because we have a really nice life, and we're certainly not millionaires by any
Yeah. What
stretch.
else
But I
do you
was
want?
like, yeah, I was like, well, I go, I go for a walk every morning. I go to the gym. I've got a PT. Like I go to Pilates. Like I do these things. You know, if you want to go to Marxie's, you can go to Marxie's. And I was like, I actually don't know what would be that different. And that was such a life changing thing for me. It's like
Yeah.
we've reached this level of enoughness, of like comfortable. And I know there's studies, and it's something like once you're earning more than, it's
Yeah, I
not,
was just thinking
it's
about
like
that.
40, 50,000 or something.
I think, yeah, I think
Maybe a bit
it's
more
like
than that.
55 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like
There's like
basically once your
there's,
bills are paid, you've got some money in the savings, you can go food shopping without like having to think about how much stuff costs. Once you are like comfortable, and especially out of debt, which has a massive, massive impact obviously on
yeah,
your disposable income, more money after that doesn't equal more happiness, and there's actually a peak
no,
where it becomes less happy because
a misery fest.
misery fest. You've got much harder
Yeah.
decisions to make when you're like in the millionaire sort of status, and that was, and I know it might sound like a weird thing or like maybe not relatable, but I just want people to think about, if you do have this really big goal, it might not be a million, but it might be like 10 salons. Think about why you want it and genuinely what is required to do this. And yes, there might be some things that do require some work up front and then very little work, like really good return in the long term. But do you have capacity to do that work now?
All of
Or
this.
sometimes, if I was doing voice noting constantly, would I be okay getting voice noted all day, every day for the next 12 months from 20 different people? Like,
I'm
how
gonna
would that
say,
feel, and would that
I'm
feel
gonna venture a
worthwhile?
no.
No, you know me.
I think it always comes down to this for me, and it's always about money versus lifestyle, isn't it? And I
Yeah.
think it's so interesting. Aidan says, "How would your life be different?" And like I think about this sometimes of like, if I won the lottery, my friend said to me once, "If you won the lottery, what would you do?" And I said, "Oh, I would still do what I do now.
Yeah.
I'd probably do it in a slightly different way, but I would definitely still be doing something for hairdressers. I would definitely still be doing stuff around mental health. I would
Yeah.
probably do more charity stuff for young people if I had less mortgage to pay and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I would be doing very similar stuff,
Yeah.
which is just so interesting, isn't it? And I say this time and time again, and you quote me saying this, but I always say, how do you want your days to look? When people talk about goals, I'm always like, how do you want your days to look? As opposed to, or I think like this, let's say you think, but that's what you did. I want £1,000,000. Great. And then he said to you, this is how your days are going to look. And you went, no, thank you.
Like, no, thank you. I'll take the less
that looks-
than a million.
What about a bit low? What's the other options? And I think so I think it's this. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about getting another salon, getting an extension, getting a bigger venue, growing in some way, or adding something on, like doing some education, committing to something, a building, who knows, whatever. You've really got to start thinking about, when you get this, how will your days look? Do you like them?
Yeah.
And what I notice when I speak to burnt out people a lot is they become very focused on end goals and don't really think about the in-between bit, because they just think the goal's going to make them happy.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to Goals and Milestones episode. But it is, you've always got to be, for me, it's money versus lifestyle. How do you want your life to look?
Yeah.
But I think there are different reasons, aren't there, why we get into wanting more.
Yeah, and I think that's why the why question's just so important to reflect on, because one thing that I see in other people, and I've so done this myself, is, are you driven by proving someone wrong or proving someone right? More often than not, it's proving someone wrong. It's usually someone who probably doesn't even remember saying this to you, but has said something like, you'll never make anything of yourself, like hairdressers don't make money.
You'll never be able to run a salon.
Yeah,
you
like
know.
it's almost like this fantasy of like, I'm going to go to the secondary school reunion and I'm going to get to go in and go, I have 10 salons. It's like Romeo and Michelle vibes. And I think that can be an okay motivator in the beginning. I think that can sometimes be a good, get you off the mark and get a bit of momentum.
Yeah.
But there is a funny phase, and I had this phase myself as well, as what happens when you've done that? Like if that's the driver and you then prove that person wrong, so you hit whatever milestone or do the thing, where do you then get your motivation and what then drives the goal if it's not to screw someone over or to go, well, screw you out, I was able to do this. Yeah.
Show someone. Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to have a little bit of a life crisis at that point.
Yeah, you need to find another means of motivation. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I think what comes up, what my best mate's a couples therapist, and she talks about, she told me about this theory once, and I started to really think about it. It will make sense in a minute, this. But she has this theory about the, does she call it this invisible divorce, the invisible divorce. And one of the things is that people do stuff like overwork, become workaholics to avoid personal life stress. You know, so it's like, oh, I've got to stay late. And it's there's a few things in the invisible divorce, being busy with the kids, but it's like something that keeps you away from your partner. So you don't have to face certain stuff. And I think sometimes and certainly as a therapist, I spoke to people who were doing this. They threw themselves into their businesses and got obsessed with growing it as a means to justify why they weren't stay at home or avoiding something,
thing, isn't it? Yeah.
It's an avoidance thing, but it's very justifiable. I'm doing this for us. I'm doing this for the family. I'm working. And I think sometimes you've got to ask yourself, are you just at work so you don't have to be at home? Yeah. And then you've got a different conversation if you're on your hands, if that is the case. But I think sometimes when people get obsessed with growth and enough and how, not understanding how much is enough and just getting obsessed with this growing, it's an avoidance technique, usually around personal stress in some way.
That makes sense.
So there's a little thing to throw in the spanner in the works at the end there as well. Just to make you go, oh, maybe. But certainly, it's interesting, isn't it? But what's your final thing? What's your final thought, Maddie? What's your Jerry Springer moment that you want to say about?
Come in, camera, pan on me. I think it's really good to have goals, and I think goals can be very helpful to keep us on track, to keep us motivated, and to have something to like benchmark against. Like, what does good look like? Am I on the right path? It's also okay to have no goals whatsoever and just go, let's see what happens, and just winging it. That's fine. But it's really important, like we said, to dig into the why you've had these goals. Like, why do you have these goals? And also, are they right for the phase of life and business that you're in? So they can be a bit of a moving target. And what I mean by this is, are you trying to reach the goal of your 13-year-old self, of your 20-year-old self, of your 25-year-old self? Or are you trying to reach a goal of what your parents want you to reach, or what they wanted to do themselves, and maybe you're trying to do that for them? And another thing that I've thought a lot about is I was listening to there's a really good podcast that I love called Dink. I think I've shared this with you. It's like about people with no kids, duolingo with no kids. And they had a guy on. He was American, but it made sense for the UK, and it was about financial planning without kids. And he said that almost all financial planning advice comes from a perspective of having children. Like, I personally don't want to have kids. And one of the things that was a financial goal of ours was to pay our mortgage off. So we were, again, it's like the done thing. You don't want to have this big debt over your head. You want, imagine being mortgage free. It was like hailed as this huge goal to have. And I was like, why are we trying to pay our mortgage off when we don't want kids? Like, there's not going to be any like descendants. There's not, we have a really relatively small family. We have 2 nieces. We have a niece on either side. They will be fine. Like, financially, they're going to be okay. We have life insurance and all of this stuff. But like, why were we, because my next goal after I wanted to do $1 million in a year was I want $1 million net worth. I want to be a millionaire. And then I was like, why? Like, why would I sacrifice my lifestyle in my day to day, because I could probably get there at some point, but it would require like immense amounts of sacrifice in
No more
how my days
walking
look.
down the beach, no
No
more going to the
lattes,
gym at 5. You'd have to go at 3 in
no
the
protein
morning then.
balls.
Just like
Devastating.
nothing. None of
It'd be
these
so
retreats and
shit.
holidays that you're always on.
Yeah, like I mean, yeah, if we just did
None
one
of
holiday at the
it.
rate that we go on now, we could get there. But what would
Yeah,
be
but
the
it's not.
point? Like to just
How's your life improved?
to just say I
It's
have a
just not, has
million
it?
tied up in properties that are like very hard to liquidate and get your money out of, like
Yeah.
investments and stuff like that. Like that was a big revelation for me as well, because I think, and I work with people where their goal is the same. Like, I want to be a millionaire, and I'm like, well, okay, one, what's required to get you there, and two, why?
Why?
What's after that? Like, why you want to do that? And yes, if you want to create generational wealth and pass it down to your kids and your kids' kids, crack on, absolutely fine. But also just be mindful of like what is your own lifestyle and what are your goals and what's the exit plan and what's a retirement plan and stuff like that. Are they your goals, and do they fit
Yeah.
with the phase of life and business that you're in now and want to be in the next 10, 20 years?
All of this, just to add in there as well, I heard a new phrase the other day, which was
Yeah.
the slinky. It's a single income, no kids. I'm a slinky.
Oh, so, yeah,
You're
that's
a dinky.
good. I like that.
Do you remember I kept saying to you, why is it always the dinkies? What about me? And then I
Well,
saw it, slinkies.
Aidan made a good point that we're not technically dual income because he works in the business, and I was like, well, we are really, like, but we're technically a slinky as well. One company.
Oh, single income,
And
no
slinky
kids.
sounds cute.
Yeah.
So I'll join you.
That's
What's
totally
your
true.
what's your final thought?
My final thoughts is this. I think if you're thinking about growth and, goals you've got for your business, I think, great, let's do that and then put that down here. And then I think you've got to think about what are the goals for your life. So did you want to spend more time traveling? And, how much time do you want to spend with your family? What sort of things? And then you've got to look at them side by side and go, do they support each other? Does my business support my personal goals? Are my personal goals supported by my business? And I think this is what you've got to think about. And I think some people are very work driven and they're just not thinking about the impacts that this is going to have on their personal goals, like exactly what we've just talked about with you. But also, what about your family's goals? What about your kids? What about your partner? What about your mum? Like, how is this going to take you away from that? And if you get taken away from these people a bit more, how's that going to affect them? But also, how's it going to affect you?
Yeah.
And so it's just always, how much is enough is how much is it going to cost you for me? That's always the question. And, here's new shiny objects. What's it going to cost me?
What's the cost? Yeah.
No thanks. Quite a lot.
It's so interesting, like what you're saying about traveling. Like I get a lot of messages from people who say, I want to do what you do. Obviously, we travel a lot, again, with no kids. We both work together. So we're able to kind of do bits of work and check in with the business. And I see so many people who are like, I want to have this like digital nomad life and I want 5 salons. And I'm like, okay, that's going to, not impossible.
Okay.
Right. But,
no.
I've got a friend who runs a salon remotely. She's
I know a
Malaysia,
nomad salon owner, but he's got one.
Yeah. Like I know, we both know someone who's got one, and that's still challenging. So yeah, you've got to, exactly as you say, look at them and go, energetically, does this match up? Financially, does this match up? Logistically, geographically, all of those aspects
emotionally.
Need to be, yeah. Because if there's a conflict, that becomes really hard, and you're going to have to make some hard choices, or you might be too far in and you've signed like 5 leases, and then you go, I want to work by the side of Lake Garda for 6 months, and that then becomes much, much harder.
Yeah. I think it's this, isn't it? When you're very single focused, you can really miss how much is enough. When you're only thinking about one thing. And what we're really saying is start thinking about a few things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I love it.
There we go. That's our final thought. We need hyper-focus time, Maddie.
I've got one. And I'm very late to the game. Actually, I've been in the game for a while, but I just want to sing it out because it's coming back into my life a bit. But Reddit, I don't think it's like a huge thing in, like I have a big Facebook group, so I'm like, au fait with like forums and people want to communicate with each other, but I think Reddit is like the unsung hero. And I want to give it one really specific example. Well, one, if I Google something now, I always put the word Reddit because I want to see what real people have said, because there's so many fake, not
Yeah.
fake reviews, but reviews by people who were obviously like affiliates and whatever.
Paid
So
or
if I'm like
something, yeah.
best lighting setup for content, I'll go Reddit and then I'll just hear, listen to a bunch of normal people. But Reddit, this is my headline, Reddit saved me £11,000 once because
Shut up.
this is
I
insane.
feel like I know this, but I can't remember what it is. Go on.
So in 2021, obviously it was like back end of the pandemic, still very pandemic vibes. And in the UK, if you remember, there was the stamp duty extension. There was two. There was one about June, July time. There was one in September time. And it was to try and allow people to move house and obviously get the housing market moving. And I was in like a bit of a complex situation in that I was on the deeds to a house that I hadn't lived in for like 10 years or something like that. Very long story. And my solicitor, our conveyancer, said, oh, you'll have to pay stamp duty on your new house when we move to the coast because you have this other house. And that was going to cost £11,000. And I was like, I don't think this is right. This doesn't feel right, but I've got to trust this woman and pay her a bunch of money. I went on Reddit to just like a UK housing law thing. And I just said, look, this is a situation. Does anyone know what the deal is? And someone said, no, you don't. You're not liable for stamp duty. That's not your primary residence. You are selling your primary residence, which is the apartment, the flat, and you're going to move. I rang my solicitor, and Hayley, I'm talking, this was like the Monday where the Friday was the cut-off. It might have even been later in the week. And I said, I didn't tell her I got it from Reddit. I said, I've just been chatting to someone and they said this. Like, what do you think? Do you know when you can hear someone realise that they've really, really cocked up? And she was like, I'm just going into a meeting and I'll just ring you back in a minute. She rang me back. Can you complete on Friday? And I was like, yes, I can. So we got through by the skin of our teeth. We were able to get the stamp duty refund, 11 grand. It was thereabouts anyway, roughly, because of some hero that doesn't even know that they did that.
Some hero on Reddit.
And you go and find them and be like, oi, I owe you a coffee or something because you saved me a fortune. It's just
I notice now
obsessed.
that it is good. Whenever I Google something, Reddit usually pops up now, I've noticed.
Yes. Yeah, it comes up in the top.
And I find the answers.
There's a whole...
all sorts of things.
There's a whole... there's some really good... So I don't know what you call them, like forums or whatever, but there's a theme, have you seen it, called Am I the Asshole? It's like AITA. And I noticed that if you look in my group, actually a lot of questions are from that. It's people who want validations, like I'm not a bad person. So our people might say,
wrong?
Have I done the right thing? Have I said the right thing? Am I right in taking this deposit when my client's poorly? And some of the, I could read them for hours, some of the Am I the Asshole are the most like... It's like, am I the asshole for telling my sister-in-law that, that I hate a baby's name or something like that? It's like so entertaining. Yes. And there's one for everything. It's just...
That's so funny.
I love it. I think it's amazing. And, I like people. Reddit, and I think the collective is so helpful.
Yeah. It sounds like an excellent procrastination tool.
My God. I can be on Reddit longer than any social... It's like my TikTok. I love it so much.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I wonder how it's not become as horrible as Twitter or something like that.
Because they're very good at moderating it. So, like, I was reading something the other day and they wouldn't, even though people were sharing screenshots from something on someone's story, and even though the person shared it publicly, they were like, you have to crop who it is, who shared, like, we have no names. So they're like, and I think it's all like moderated voluntarily. So you could go and moderate, we could like ask to moderate like a hair page or whatever, and you can upvote and downvote comments. And I wonder if there's something, I don't really know this for fact, but I wonder if there's something in, if people downvote a lot, it like flags it. But I think there's like a very ingrained culture of how people behave on Reddit.
Yeah, like dickish behaviour is flagged somehow.
It's not tolerated, yeah.
And paid attention. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's good.
It's interesting. So my hyper-focus is quite big at the moment. So do you remember when we were in Vegas and our friend Brandy had that aura ring?
Yes. Well, shout out Brandy first of all. We love Brandy
Shout out
McKenzie.
Brandy, fabulous.
Yes. Tell people what an aura ring is in case I don't know if it's a big UK thing yet.
I've become a bit obsessed, Maddie.
Right.
Ever since we come back from Vegas, I've literally been Googling and becoming obsessed. So an aura ring would be a little bit like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, but it's a ring that you wear that tells you health things, heart rate.
It's like wearable tech
steps.
is the technical term, isn't it?
Yeah, it does very similar things to what an Apple Watch does if you're using it in that way. You know, not. But what I like about it is no one can phone you on it. But it's
The dream.
it's very basic. It's a step counter.
Yeah.
But it also does some quite interesting things, doesn't it? Like heart rate, and there was other stuff. It manages your sleep. All that stuff.
Yeah,
you
like
know, it's a
sleep
health thing.
Like Brandy was telling us about how certain things impacted the quality of sleep, and that's amazing.
Yeah, and because she knows a lot about a lot of stuff, she can sort of figure out how your nervous system's doing, which I was very interested in because I talk a lot about nervous system in relation to ADHD. So I got very interested in that. When she said that, my ears pricked up, and I've messaged her a few questions about that. Anyway, I was in John Lewis the other day because that's where they sell the Aura ring here. And it's only literally it's not been out long in the UK. And I've Googled it. I've been on all the forums. I've been on Reddit. I've been everywhere reading about it. I've been Googling cheaper alternatives to the Aura ring because it's £500 and you need a subscription for like £5 or £6 a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is pricey for the fact that I'm a faddy person. Like at the moment, I'm all protein and steps, but that could easily change. And I think, so I've been really well behaved in not buying the Aura ring yet.
Sounds like
to see if this is going to become a change in my life. I'm quite obsessed with the Aura ring. But what I haven't discovered is Samsung are bringing out the Galaxy ring, which basically looks the same, does the same thing. It's cheaper and you don't need a subscription.
I was going to say, so I'd wait for someone to bring out a cheaper one. Because if you think about Apple Watch, that's when Fitbit brought out their cheaper version. And then there's been cheaper still. What you need is like middle Lidl or middle Aldi to do you like a real like £50 health ring.
Well, I'll tell you, yes.
Or see if someone on
funny. So
second hand maybe. You need another faddy person.
I've been on eBay. I've looked. There's people selling them second hand. So I went and got measured in John Lewis so I know what size.
Yeah,
it's also quite chunky, Maddie. It looks like a big chunky wedding ring, like the sort that men would be more likely to wear, like quite a big ring. And I'm a bit like, but then I don't really want to wear an Apple Watch either. And so I'm trying to decide which is the worst. But my friend's partner, who's a big tech person, was like, I think you should just get an Apple Watch, Hayley. And I was like, I don't know, because he was telling me all the other things I could do with that. And I was like, so I'm very undecided, so I'm doing nothing. But I'm in research phase.
Well, I've got an Apple Watch and it's actually quite old. I was like, do I need, I always ask him, I'm like, do I need a newer Apple Watch? He's like, no. And it does everything I need. It tracks exercise, like exercise calories, steps, heart rate variation, like respiratory recovery.
Yeah, it does all the same things.
Yeah, pretty much the same things.
And you can also Apple Pay on it, which I quite like.
Yeah, Apple Pay.
My friend uses their Apple Pay on a watch all the time.
And I think you could probably have it so your notifications didn't come through. I mean, I have my phone
absolutely not
and watch on Do Not Disturb almost every minute of the day. I just have calls that come through because I'm like, so few people ring me. And I think I've got it set it up that if Aidan texts me, it comes through, but nothing else does. So you can pick and choose like what pings, because otherwise you're just looking at your watch all the time. But I did see something, do you know there's a thing called Natural Cycles, which is like a cycle tracking thing that I did a while ago and then just kept forgetting to do that. But they partner with Apple Watch now because it's a temperature-based thing. So I think Apple Watch is doing the things that Aura can do.
Because didn't Brandy say something about that the cycle thing was on Aura Ring? That's why she got it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why she didn't get an Apple Watch, but now it is on the Apple Watch.
Yes, I don't know if it's just a link
I'm
with
this
natural cycle. So, yeah, it's not for not everyone needs that. Yeah.
We're doing all right.
Yours will be like, why are you so hot?
So
same for me.
Multiple reasons it could be. Absolute multiple reasons. But so I'm in that phase of I want to make sure that I stay interested in steps and all that stuff. But I feel like that's going quite well actually.
Yeah, it is.
And so I bought a really cheap, like £20 version of a Fitbit Apple Watch thing on Amazon. It was so shit. I can't even, and I'm actually going to send it back. I'm so mad about it. It said I did 500 steps in my sleep, and
I
it
feel
said I
like
was
buzzing
asleep,
about that.
and it said I was asleep all night, and I got out of bed twice, and it didn't
Yeah.
notice it. And so I'm
Oh,
like,
that's no good.
So I sent him an email saying this is not fit for purpose.
No.
So I tried to buy the cheap thing to sort of support the fad,
False
but it's not
economy,
working.
though.
So I'm going to have to. Yeah, I'm going to get my money back, Maddie. But I think, I'm going to have to spend some money. So
Maybe
it's going
look
to be
at
another.
like old generation, like whatever mine must be about 3 or 4 years old. Old generation, like secondhand on eBay.
Yeah,
Like
get
Apple
myself down
Watch, I
cash
guess, like 100
converters.
quid. We aye.
Cash
And then we can do
converters know my ways,
challenges.
full of stuff.
We can do like, I'm sure you can like sync them up, and like it'll be like Haley's done more steps, and that'll make me insane. So I'll be
I
running
feel
around
that's
tonight.
unlikely. Always unlikely. But yeah, so I will be buying one of those things, but I'm not sure which one yet. I'm
Yeah.
not sure when.
Time will
But
tell.
the deep diving is wild.
Well, we
Yeah.
love a hyper focus, which is purely research. That's allowed as well.
It's
as we've
exactly
worked
what
out,
it is. Yeah, I've not bought any of them yet, but something's happening.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sounds good.
That's
Well,
it.
as always, a pleasure, not a chore, and I will catch you next time.
Total pleasure, Maddie. See you later, Cookie.
See you in a bit. Bye, Devil.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments.
Please support those who support us, and check out Timely, who we recommend is our favourite booking system for you. New customers can get 50% off their first 3 months with a code COFFEE50.